Close your eyes for a second. I want you to imagine a city, not a pretty city, not a postcard city, a real one. One that has survived plague, fire, war, and revolution. One that has reinvented itself so many times that no single version of it is entirely true. One that is, at this exact moment, simultaneously one of the oldest and one of the most modern places on the surface of this planet. Now open your eyes, because that city is London. And in the next 10 minutes, I am going to take you deeper into it than any tour guide ever will. Most people think they know London. They've seen the images, the red buses, the fog, the Queen's Guard standing perfectly still. They arrive, they take the photos, they leave, and they go home thinking they've seen it. But London is not a city you see. London is a city you feel. It gets under your skin. It changes the way you think about time, about history, about what a human being is capable of building. So let's go. Let's go properly. Let's start not at a monument, not at a palace, but at the river. Because in London, everything begins with the river. The Thames is 215 miles long. It rises from a field in Gloucestershire. A small stone marks the spot, easy to miss, unremarkable. And it moves east, gathering pace and width until it reaches London and becomes something else entirely. Something ancient and alive. The Romans were the first to bridge it, around 50 AD, right where London Bridge stands today. They called their settlement Londinium. They built a wall around it. Parts of that wall are still standing. You can touch them. You can put your hand on stone that a Roman soldier touched 2,000 years ago and feel absolutely nothing separate you from that moment. That is what the Thames does to London. It makes time collapse. For 2 millennia, everything important that happened in this city happened because of that river. Trade, invasion. Plague ships arriving in the dark. The heads of traders displayed on London Bridge as a warning. The Great Fire of 1666, visible from the South Bank as the whole city burned for 4 days. The Blitz, when the river reflected the flames of a city being bombed into rubble. The Thames has seen all of it, and it keeps moving. Now let's talk about the Tower of London. Because most people walk past it, glance at it from the bridge, maybe pay to go inside, and leave thinking it was a castle. It was never just a castle. William the Conqueror began building it in 1078, just 12 years after he took England by force at the Battle of Hastings. He built it not to defend London from outside attack. He built it to intimidate London from within, to remind the people he had just conquered exactly who was in charge. And for centuries, that is precisely what it did. The Tower has been a royal palace, a treasury, a zoo. Henry III kept lions there, actual lions, given to him as gifts, a mint where coins were made, and most famously, a prison. Anne Boleyn was imprisoned here before her execution. Sir Walter Raleigh spent 13 years inside these walls writing his history of the world. The princes in the Tower, 2 young boys who simply vanished in 1483, are believed to have been murdered somewhere inside, though no one has ever proven by whom. The crown jewels are still kept here, the actual crowns, the actual scepters. The Cullinan diamond, the largest gem-quality rough diamond ever found, cut and set into the sovereign's scepter, sitting in a vault under armed guard, available for you to walk past and stare at through glass. And the ravens. There are always at least 6 ravens living at the Tower by royal decree, because legend says that if the ravens ever leave, the Tower will fall, and with it, the kingdom. So there is an official raven master, a yeoman warder, whose actual job is to look after the birds. The ravens have their wings clipped, just enough so they can't go far. They have been here longer than anyone can remember. They will be here long after we are gone. Walk east from the Tower, and you reach an area of London that barely existed 40 years ago. Canary Wharf. Where the West India docks once sat, the docks that made London the trading capital of the world, where sugar and rum and cotton and, in the darkest chapter, enslaved people arrived from the colonies, now stands one of the most striking financial districts on Earth. Glass towers 50 stories high, the headquarters of HSBC, Barclays, Citigroup, JP Morgan. On a clear day, from the right angle, the towers of Canary Wharf reflected in the old dock water look like a science fiction city that dropped into a Victorian landscape. And that tension, the old and the new pressing against each other, is one of the defining feelings of modern London. The city never demolishes its past. It builds around it, sometimes on top of it, but always with it still visible underneath. Now go west, cross the city, because London is not one place. It never was. It is a collection of villages that grew into each other over centuries, each one with its own character, its own history, its own reason for existing. The East End grew around the docks and trade. The city, that 1 square mile in the center, grew around Roman Londinium and became the financial heart. Westminster grew around power, the palace, the parliament, the abbey. Southwark, south of the river, was where London went to misbehave. The theaters were there in Shakespeare's time because the city authorities didn't allow them inside the walls. The Globe Theatre was built on the South Bank in 1599. Shakespeare didn't just write plays there, he acted in them. He stood on that stage. The reconstruction of the Globe stands a few hundred meters from the original site today and still performs Shakespeare every summer in the open air with standing tickets in the yard for £5, which is possibly the greatest cultural bargain in Europe. Let's talk about St. Paul's Cathedral, because it deserves more than a passing mention. The current building was designed by Christopher Wren and completed in 1710, after the original cathedral was destroyed in the Great Fire of 1666. Wren submitted 5 different designs before one was approved. The dome, at 111 meters, was the tallest building in London for 250 years. During the Blitz, the German Air Force dropped hundreds of bombs on the city of London. St. Paul's was hit several times, but the dome survived. And the photograph taken by Herbert Mason on the night of December 29, 1940, St. Paul's dome rising intact above the smoke and flames of a burning city, became one of the most powerful images of the Second World War. It was called St. Paul's Survives. The government specifically directed firefighters to protect the cathedral at all costs, even as buildings all around it burned. Because they understood something that went beyond architecture. They understood that as long as the dome was standing, people could believe the city was still standing. Go inside today and stand beneath the dome in the Whispering Gallery. The acoustics are so precise that if you whisper against the wall on one side, someone sitting against the wall on the opposite side, 34 meters away, can hear every word as clearly as if you spoke directly into their ear. It works. It still works. 300 years later. Let's go somewhere most travel videos never take you. Smithfield Market. It sits just north of St. Paul's, and it has been a market for over 800 years, which means that on this patch of ground, people have been buying and selling things since before the Black Death, before the printing press, before Columbus reached America. Today, it is London's last surviving Victorian covered meat market. The building is extraordinary, ornate iron and glass, almost cathedral-like, built in 1868. But the real experience is arriving at 3 in the morning, because Smithfield operates through the night. The market opens at 2 a.m. By 4, the trading is at full pitch. Butchers in white coats and blood-stained aprons, sides of beef being carried across the stone floor, traders shouting prices, the cold air thick with the smell of the market. And around the edges, the pubs. Smithfield has special late licenses, which means that at 4 in the morning, you can sit in a Victorian pub surrounded by market workers having their breakfast with a pint of beer, while the rest of London is asleep. It is one of the most strangely alive things you can do in this city, and almost no tourist ever does it. Here is something London does that no other city quite manages. It hides extraordinary things in plain sight. There is a street called Bleeding Heart Yard, just off Holborn, that takes its name from a 17th century murder so brutal the locals said a bleeding heart was found in the courtyard. There is a pub called the Prospect of Whitby in Wapping that has been serving drinks continuously since 1520, making it the oldest riverside pub in London. Samuel Pepys drank there. Charles Dickens drank there. Turner painted the view of the Thames from its terrace. You can sit on that same terrace today with a pint and look at almost the same view. There is a Roman amphitheater buried beneath the Guildhall in the City of London, its curved walls visible through a glass floor in the basement of the art gallery above. 2,000 years of history, accessible for free. Underneath a building most Londoners walk past without knowing what's below. And there is Postman's Park, a small hidden garden near St. Paul's, where Victorian philanthropist George Frederick Watts created a memorial wall covered in ceramic tiles, each one commemorating an ordinary person who died saving someone else's life. A clerk who drowned saving a child. A railway worker who threw himself in front of a runaway engine to save a colleague. A woman who died rescuing a friend from a burning building. Ordinary people. No statues, no grand monuments, just their names, their ages, and what they did. It is one of the most quietly devastating places in London, and almost no one knows it exists. Let's end where London began, and where in a sense it never stops beginning. The South Bank. Walk it at dusk, from Tower Bridge all the way west to Westminster Bridge. This is about 3 miles, and it will take you the better part of an hour, but every minute of it earns its keep. You start with the tower on your left, the glass of the city reflecting the fading light on your right. You pass Borough Market, where food has been sold since at least 1014, the oldest food market in London, now the best. You pass the Tate Modern, a former power station turned into one of the most visited art galleries on Earth. Its vast turbine hall large enough to house a full-scale installation the size of a building. You pass the Globe. You pass the National Theatre, its brutalist concrete beautiful in a way that took London decades to accept. You pass the London Eye, turning so slowly it barely seems to move. And then you reach Westminster Bridge and you stop, and you look. Big Ben to your right, the Parliament buildings golden in the last light, the river below you black and fast and ancient. And you understand something. You understand that this city is not a collection of landmarks. It is a continuous story. One that started 2,000 years ago on the northern bank of a cold river and has not stopped for a single day since. Every person who has ever lived here, worked here, loved here, survived here, has added one sentence to that story. And now you are here, standing on this bridge, looking at this river, and you are adding yours. London does not care how long you stay. It does not perform for you. It does not simplify itself. It is complicated and contradictory and sometimes difficult and always underneath everything, completely extraordinary. And the only way to understand it, really understand it, is to stop trying to see all of it and instead choose one street, one moment, one story, and go all the way in. The city will do the rest. It always does.